You're very welcome to our first episode of Split the Gab podcast here at Nan Rice's, where we're introducing Irish culture content into our flow. Now, this is the point where I'm supposed to sound very professional and clean cut and everything, but we're just here for some traditional Irish pub convo, and that's what we're here for today. That's what it's all about. So we're here with Gino Lynch, absolute legend in the field of comedy acting. He's an absolute G. He gets into our G list.
What's the G list?
That's where you're an OG.
Okay.
You know, like straight up West Coast. So it's great to have you here, Gino. But today is about you, man. And I just like to know, first of all, a bit about your story and what it was like growing up for you here in Newry City.
Growing up, first place I lived was sort of in Parkhead. Lived there for a while. Lived in College Gardens then from about 2 or 3. That's just off the Armagh Road there. I lived there from about maybe 4 years of age till about 9 maybe, and then I moved out to TaxiJo. So yeah, I mean, I've always been I've always been working in Newry, and I've always had I've had like 5 or 6 strong groups of friends in Newry. Do you know what I mean? And growing up there, you get to know the culture, and then, working in bars and stuff like that there, you got to meet lots of characters and all. And then, most people would know me obviously for the videos online and stuff like that. But those formative years when I was younger, with all the people that you met, all the brilliant characters around Newry, that's effectively where all the videos came from. Do you know what I mean? Because I've lived in Liverpool, a college student, went to university there I was there for about 4 years. I've lived in London, and there's not quite the same characters that you get in Newry. You know what I mean? So Newry's got this untapped wealth of brilliant characters that you meet. So the stuff me and Q done online was effectively, an amalgamation of all that. Particularly when you work in bars, you meet all these brilliant people, great characters. I remember, I was working at McCoy's bar, not the McCoy's that's now the original McCoy's. Worked there for a few years, and I remember you walk in to start working and you'd be laughing the whole day till you walked out. Even the people you work with were hilarious, It was all great crack. And there were the formative years of making comedy and comedy videos and stuff. And then the Office, the British Office because I was always into films when I was younger. And then when I seen the British Office, I was like, that's what I want to do. So that's effectively then where TaxiJo came from,
Wow, that's like stemming back from your roots, I think a real filmmaker and writer will look to his own experiences of life and his youth.
Yeah. And
you've put that into writing. Now, regarding that writing and that, when did, I'm a creative too, Gino.
Yes.
I'm a hip hop artist, and I make video productions. When did you realize you were different? And I mean that as a sense in being a creative.
Yeah, I was certainly different in school. But I was one of those people in school where everybody got on with, But I was out there, I was different. And then I probably matured a lot later than a lot of the rest of the kids at school, And then, but from very young, I was always writing stories, and some of the stuff I wrote when I was a teenager was just awful. Really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you tend to get out of your system first is writing about things that happen in your life, and then write pretty much cliches of the stuff that inspired you. You'll write something that happened in your life and you'll think, this is the funniest thing ever. But it's only funny to you because it happened to you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I used to write about experiences in my life and things that happened to me and all. And then when I was in university, I had this brilliant screenwriting teacher, and his name was Roshan Singh. And he seen I was very passionate about writing, and I put loads of work into it. I put more work into it than the rest of the people in the class. And there was this thing in the end of year project where in the screenwriting class, I think 4 or 5 projects got picked out from the 20 students that pitched. And mine wasn't one of the ones that got picked.
No.
So I was pitching for it, and I was like, I was thinking, this is brilliant. And then when nobody got it, I was like, why does nobody get this? So the teacher seen him was a wee bit sort of puzzled by this. So he, after class, took me into his office to give me a wee chat about it and all. And then he said something where the light bulb went off in my head. He said, because I said, look, I worked here, I worked there. I remember doing this with my mates and it was hilarious and all. He says, look, I've done stuff with my mates that has been hilarious and all. And then I says, yeah, I know, but you don't understand. It was, this stuff really happened and all. And he said, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And that's the light bulb moment. I was mid-20s, I was like, I've been doing it wrong for all these years, so It is still a creation. Do you know what I mean? And once you, as I said, anybody that's writing, once you start writing about your life, you have to remember this is not going to be as interesting to you interesting to other people as it is to you because you experienced it.
Yeah.
So it is fiction. You have to make it up. So like people go, oh, I know who TaxiJo is. And I'm like, you don't, because he's not based on anybody. He's an amalgamation of maybe 20 people I've met in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, at the end of the day, it is still fiction when you're creating these things.
Yeah, so you talked about creating fictional characters, and I think fictional characters give people a chance to access and experience this subversive experiential where they're living through the fictional character. Yeah. We're supposed to be being like Ken Loach, kitchen sink, here's the drama. People want a bit more lighthearted, and comedy is a great reflection of that art. So like when I came back from working in Ibiza, when I was doing like Sony music documentaries, Ministry of Sound, and really hammering in on that production value, when I came back and I watched TaxiJo, from a filmmaking perspective, I was actually very, very impressed with the production value, like really tight audio, amazing kind of visual quality as well, but also really, really tight scripting, like just on the ball, great acting. How do you tie a production like that together?
Well, yeah, I have the sort of the advantage of two things. So I've been doing online content for a long time and filmmaking for a long time, but also I work in the film industry. So it's like you make your own bits and pieces, and then when you go back to the film set professional world, and you're working with some of the best, DOPs in the world, some of the best directors in the world on occasions, depending on what project comes in, it gives you a great sort of bank and knowledge of how these things come together, because there's so much work goes into the preparation of it all. And then from a technical standpoint, like probably going back to the TaxiJo series, the 6-part one, I knew what was required to make a script like that, and it was a lot of work. I just knew it was a lot of work, and we were like, right, we'll throw the kitchen sink at this, and then it'll be like a good advert for potentially maybe a TV series or whatever. We'd like to move it in that direction potentially. And then, the work involved in prep, so I would storyboard everything, and then all of the previous work that I've done when I'm filming things and editing stuff, I get really into the details and making it as good as possible. And every time I make something, I'm always thinking, how could I do it better? How could I do it better? Once you start off sometimes and you do something, you make something you could be proud of it, you could stand back and admire it, where particularly if I make something now, my brain works the opposite way. I'm constantly forensically going, how can I make this better? I'm looking at what's wrong with, So even the TaxiJo web series that in 2022, we did the 6 episodes. There's bits of it. I'm very happy with it. Don't get me wrong, but there's bits of it I look at and go, I'll do that slightly different the next time. But there's tremendous, when you're watching a film or TV show, this is the thing at home, you don't realize the work that goes in. You know what I mean? And when you work in the film industry for a long time, you know how the machine moves, and you know how much work it takes to make something like that happen, But funny enough, when we done the web series, a lot of people that didn't like the earlier TaxiJo stuff really liked it. And then some of the people that liked the earlier stuff weren't too fussed on it. But no, for the simple reason that especially when you go online and you create something that is like, we had videos coming out every, for a long time, over a number of years. People get accustomed and used to the way that is. So it's just TaxiJo driving, giving off about stuff.
Yeah.
But then you need for it to stay fresh and to evolve and to keep going. You need to create more. So we built sort of a foundation of characters that would help generate longevity in the whole thing without it running out of gas very quickly. Because if I just done the same TaxiJo rants every week and every day and all, to keep that fresh and to keep that people interested in that, it's a big ask. And people, I think, still think highly of it because they haven't seen it in a couple of years and they miss it. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're putting it out all the time, people could get sick of it or bored of it if the quality of the work's not high enough all the time. And then it's difficult to, if you're putting stuff out all the time of what to write about, to keep it fresh. There's only so many times you can go on about the price of something or, so many times you can give out about, the government or whatever. But we do plan to bring it back, hopefully in the summer, because it's a good climate to bring it back because, the world's so, turned upside down since the last time I was doing TaxiJo videos, So when the world's like that, it's always a good grounding place to do satire. For instance, right? It's like when I look at satire, I call it the South Park litmus test, right?
Right.
It's how relevant is South Park, right?
Mm-hmm. So
South Park's last series was a massive hit and it was very relevant because of the time we're living in. Mm-hmm. Because with Donald Trump in and stuff like that, politics now, it's not funny anymore. People are really annoyed with what's going on in the world and stuff. So that's when satire excels. South Park was really struggling when Trump was in his first term because you had Trump in and you had Boris Johnson in and everyone thought they were buffoons and everyone was laughing at them. So do you remember when Trump was doing the whole, every night he was talking about he was doing the COVID talk every night.
Yeah.
And he's on about injecting bleach into people and stuff. He became the satire by what he was doing. So the satirists, South Park, avoided Trump because we can't beat this. People, this is hilarious. But now it's not because it's getting very serious politics now. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's all about how the landscape is. And I think, from people that I chat to and you get private messages, I think that's why people are sort of craving TaxiJo again because they want a bit of a laugh, a bit of relief from everything that's going on in the world, Yeah.
Does create that comedy definitely, and with a scope like TaxiJo, it gives people, takes the steam off people's life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be able to have a laugh. It's what Father Ted did in the 90s. TaxiJo gives that kind of classic comical vibe where you can vibe with the characters. You don't have to completely you can disconnect from as you say, the reality of the hot political situation that's happened right now. But it's like, what I'm seeing is that I can identify with that perfectionist attitude as a creative myself, articulating things. But thank God for the series that you did decide to evolve on this journey, because the scope of your evolution has been adding, characters in and writers in who are adding so much value to the comedy and the script and the narrative, because you're all bouncing off each other now. Yeah. How did you get that group of actors together? Are they friends from the industry or?
Yeah, well, John's in it, so that was a big plus. And John always says he wanted to be on it. My Uncle John, who's an actor, and I remember even growing up, John was a bit of an icon around here because he was always doing films about the Troubles. He played Bobby Sands, and he was in The Name of the Father. People used to shout that line to him out all the time. I'm going out the front door to see Jerry.
Yes, I remember. John Lynch.
Yes.
Oh, for frig's sake, yes.
So he was in it, and I've always been very close with him, and he's always full of great advice, and he's been brilliant. But during the 90s when he was doing all those films, that was back in the day when you had only 5 channels on TV. So when you're on TV, it was a bigger deal, So he was great. So originally I had an episode in mind where he was going to play himself. So this was the idea for the original, having John, he was going to play himself and he's going to be in the back seat, and I was going to say, I'm a big fan, I'm a big fan and all. And at the end I asked him for his autograph, and then he signs it and I look at the autograph and I go, are you not our accountant? So that was supposed to be the punchline. He gets mistaken for
Does he?
Yeah.
Unreal.
So we discussed that, and then we thought that's a bit. People playing versions of themselves is a wee bit old hat. Like Curb Your Enthusiasm, an actress done it about 20 years ago. And then he seen the episode. I done a rough cut of the episode with the mayor, who's played by James McGinn. He seen a rough cut of that, and he got really interested then in that whole underworld we were doing, about the drugs and all. So So then we met up and we discussed it, and we came up with the ideas, and that was definitely, in terms of the filming of it, definitely the highlight of the whole experience, because John wanted to do it in the sort of style of Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he ad-libbed the whole thing. So he made up all the lines, we knew the story and all, where we were going with, so we were filming and we didn't know what he was going to come out with, and we were tears just rolling down our cheeks all day. So I've tons of material from that day, so I'm going to have to put out outtakes and all that sort of thing, because they are hilarious. And one of the guys who stole the show was Peter Davis. He's a family friend, so he had to be my dad's like best friend since he run about him since he was a kid. And John knows him as well, and the three of them all grew up together and playing pool and all over the years. So when we were sat in, he was sat in one vehicle and I was sat in the other vehicle, and he was like, I need somebody beside me, I need a henchman, so we get Peter Davis in, and it was he stole the show. Like, he was in there staring at me, and he mentioned the odd word, like it was absolutely hilarious, but it was all improvised, and when you don't know what's coming, it's funnier, and I struggled at times to keep a straight face. Lucky enough, the last scene that we filmed in the boxing club, where it was John, the two Heaney brothers were in it as well.
Oh yes,
Marty Rogan was there.
Yeah.
Lucky enough, I wasn't involved. I wasn't in front of camera in that scene, as I couldn't be.
No.
I was behind camera, just grand with laughter. It was so funny. And the two Heanies didn't know what, because they didn't know what was coming. But it was brilliant. The two of them improvised, and they were brilliant. Like, it was, if I could do that for a job, I would just love it, But there's so much infrastructure involved, so much investment, so much time to get something like that off the ground, So whenever you do things like that, you have to enjoy them, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can sink in the experience. And, well, you know what, man? There is a lot to be said for improv from what I've seen of your series,
Yeah.
Like, it must be like a skill of an actor, and even that within that Newry kind of character personality to bounce off each other, to kind of know where you're going, even though have a basic script, but also know where you're going. So I think I'd like to know, was there any did people notice you when you were filming about the town and all? Was there any people jibing in, or?
There was a bit, yeah. So because I filmed so much in the town, I sort of know where to go, and Sunday mornings is always my go-to to film because the town's empty, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a few occasions when we had Charlie Lawson, and there was a few people, everybody knows Charlie Lawson, like, but getting him was a big coup as well, like, and because we were doing it in and around COVID, and the first time we had him lined up, I got COVID and he couldn't do it, and he's like, oh no, we're not going to get him back. Well, we got him back.
Brilliant.
He was great. He was brilliant. He was staying on the Canal Court when we were doing it. He was fantastic. But yeah, you just have to know how to navigate it. Funny enough, I've mentioned this story a couple of times. There's a boy down, and we were just outside Louis Boyd's filming, and he was like, what's going on down here and all.
Was he? Yeah.
I went up to try and talk to him, and he was like giving it loads and all.
Yeah, was he?
Are you filming me? Am I going to be in the fog? Am I going to be in that? You have no permission to film me. He's like, just didn't get the pizza. Like, where are you filming him? And but I said there was a story. I said it was like, this is when we were in the screening, and there was a Q&A about it, and I talked about that story, and I said it was like the first time TaxiJo had met TaxiJo. Like, really like TaxiJo, just going, what's going on here?
It's like Inception.
Yeah. So you do occasionally, but a lot of the Newry stuff we shot outside was at night time. So we got away with, like, there was that one incident. There was another incident where there was a couple of guys in bikes floating about. But for the most part,
couple of wee skates and bikes, but they're harmless. They're going to put it on their Snapchat and
absolutely. But for the most part, we were all right. But like I know the town inside out, so and I've shot on it so much. The great thing about the series that we did was, and for anything to film in Newry, it's untapped visually. Yeah, and it's such a unique place visually. So I was explaining this to people, like co-workers that worked on the series with me, and I was talking about how beautiful Newry is and all, and they're all laughing and all. And I was like, when you're thinking like a filmmaker, Newry is unique from a photography perspective. You don't get in Belfast. You're in the middle of Belfast for the most part. Now it's different. There's those elements where you see, up in the Black Mountain and all that. But the middle of Belfast, generally speaking, is flat. Newry's in a basin. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's always depth to all your shots. Yeah. You go to the bottom of Monaghan Street and you see right up Daisy Hill. You go down to where the Quays is, you see out the Carlingford Lock, and then you can see the more mountains in the background and all, Yeah. So Newry's a stunning place. And then we've done a lot of drone stuff around it, and I think I've done all the drone shots in the area, trying to come up with new spots, that I haven't done yet. Yeah. That won't get me arrested. You know what I mean?
Coming down that Barcroft Hill is quite epic when you're coming down the Yoke.
Yes.
You can just see the city widening up.
Yes. I would love to get drone footage up there, but I've never done it because it's not, for me anyway, it's not safe to fly a drone there because there's just so many electrical wires.
Oh, totally. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a nightmare.
So, and then there's so many residents and all that. So I find that it's one of those spots where it's hard to get a spot up there where you're not disturbing people and it's safe. Once you look up, you see all the electrical. It's just a junction for where all the electrics are going up there, So it's tricky to find a good spot there, to get a good shot, with the drone. You do with a tripod and the camera, obviously, traditionally. Yeah.
I obviously got into a bit of TaxiJo when I was researching and everything, and it was great to see that, and I really enjoyed the series. But what I really seen was your release, your Choose Life release there at Christmas time, which I actually seem to have made it into the video. I mean, where did you get the idea to include me?
It was just basically from social media. You're just seeing what's relevant in Newry now, what's going on in Newry, and you want to just include as much of that in as possible, But I think it was a good one to come back with, because the funny thing when we done the new Choose Newry was you realise how much Newry's changed in the last 10 years. So when we done, the last one was about 8 years ago, I think. Newry's like, a lot has changed, a lot. So you had all the whole thing to talk about with the Quays and the art centre, and we wrote all the Choose stuff down, and I get Q up to see what he think, right here, choose this, choose that, and he done all the voice for it, like Q Feenan.
Oh yeah.
Did he? Yeah, it was Q Feenan.
I thought that was you.
No, that's Q Feenan.
I was saying, like, where did you, like...
No, so you see him with the vest on, and that's not...
Where's he from?
He's from Hawthorne Hill.
Hawthorne Hill. Yeah, he's got such a strong Barcroft accent.
Well, that's not his real voice.
Is that not his real voice?
No, you know Martin Hanlon in the videos with TaxiJo.
Yeah.
So he's just doing a voice for Baghead. He doesn't really sound like that.
I tell you what, he has a proper Pantony-esque Barcroft accent, man. Like, we thought it was one of the Pantonys. Like, they're all related. So right.
And then I had a load of Choose stuff written. Me and Q came up to my flat and we went through it all. And I'd say out of all the stuff we did of Choose this, choose that, 60% would have made it in, and the 40% didn't, to try and just keep it.
Yeah.
The video was about 4 or 5 minutes, I think. Yeah. But it just shows you there was tons of stuff, your lad with the NFL and all, you know what I mean? He's flying over to America and stuff. It was a really good one to come back with, because I think a lot of people in Newry are pissed off with what's going on, the shopping centres and all, the lack of investment, the lack of the economy is just, it seems to be at the mercy of how the currencies fluctuate.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I remember 15 years ago, this place was bouncing.
It was.
You couldn't even go to the shops in Newry. It was that busy.
Keys used to be flat out, and then in Tuesday Newry, you're saying you can play not a shop open. You can play footy up and down the halls, up and down the Keys Centre, which is nuts. Because
it's so that was a good one to come back with. Because me and Q were saying it when we were doing it. We were just like, Newry's changed a lot in the last 10 years. Where's it going to be in another 10? But the arts, we wanted to talk about the Art Centre and the NHS and Daisy Hill and all of this was happening there. It's not, you want to just get it in there because it's relevant,
Sure.
And what was happening with the Art Centre and all, and Donald O'Hanlon, he'd tell you, I had him on, I was chatting with him on a podcast about it.
Yeah.
And he's stuck in the middle of all that, and it's really tough for them, pulling the Art Centre down, and then they discovered there was asbestos and had to close it, but there wasn't really asbestos.
Right.
The
asbestos theory. Yeah.
That survey wasn't done right or whatever. So
Jesus.
They deserve a break there, because there's a lot of people like Armagh. There's a lot of people from Newry now go to Armagh to watch theatre shows. Because the facilities in Newry aren't up to scratch, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But hopefully with this redevelopment and all, it's like people like Donald and all the New Point players, they really commit themselves to it. They commit their life to
That's their theatre of performance. That's where they shine,
and they do it from passion,
Yeah.
Similar way that when I'm doing TaxiJo videos, you do it for passion, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because, but hopefully that all gets resolved. But it wasn't a hard video to write about, you could come up with a million things about Newry. And then we shot it, we got some cool shots in Newry, and it went pretty well, because it's, as I said earlier on about the how relevant the satire litmus test is. People aren't happy now.
Yeah.
So comedy works better when people aren't happy, It just tends to be the way it is.
Let's keep the people in Newry miserable. So it can cheer them up with comedy. What do you think?
Newry, next year's choosing you do it every year. More misery.
I wonder will have upgraded from Vanilla Ice, and you think?
2-pack then, maybe.
Coup-pack.
Coup-pack, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fuck's sake. Brilliant, man. Yeah, no, so I just want to say, upcoming writer in Newry, he wants to try something. He wants to get out there himself. What advice would you give the young kind of creatives coming through?
Just do it. Simple. There's a thing you can get in. You could probably relate to this when you're making stuff, where you can get into this whole realm of, I need this, I need that to do that. You can go, I need this camera, I need that lens, I need, particularly with social media now. If you want to be a filmmaker or you want to make anything, you have your phone. I know that people say it's a cliche and going, I don't want to use my phone. Use your phone. The cameras now on phones are better than the cameras I had when I was at university.
Completely.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
The thing I would say is try your best to get good sound quality. And then the cameras on the phones now are brilliant, and learn how to use them. But if you want to be a writer, write. The hardest thing is to actually sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and write. And I write with a pen and a piece of paper, and then I'll type it up, And when you write with a pen and a piece of paper, it gets rid of all the distractions. That's one problem people will have now in this day and age, is distractions and attention span. To sit at a blank piece of paper and write for a few hours, the brain will start going, I need to check Instagram, I need to go on a TikTok, I need to do this, you know what I mean?
We can't do it anymore.
Your brain's just, even now people can't sit down and watch a film because they're on fucking social media for half of it,
Can I tell you something, Gino? And I was horrified when I heard this. Apparently Netflix are designing movie scripts to fit in with your social media attention span.
Yes, I heard that.
Apparently you're supposed to be able to be sitting flicking there with the woman beside you, and then look up, and it's just a wee nice bit of a film.
Yeah.
That's a disgrace,
Yes,
man.
and the way they're going to do that is just try to reiterate the story multiple times. In case they miss it the first time when they're on TikTok or whatever, But there's a huge upside with TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. They're all very hard to crack now because they're like oversaturated with content, you know.
Completely.
10 years ago or 8 years ago, if you got on the TikTok, even if you were rubbish, you wouldn't have went like that.
Yeah.
So it is harder now, but it means there's no excuses now, you know. So, like, for instance, I'm writing a TV series and writing pilot episodes, just trying to get something made, something funded, something commissioned. It's very difficult, long process. There's a lot of people involved. There's networks involved, production companies involved. There's lots of money to make the stuff and get the pieces together. And it takes forever. Do you know what I mean? And you need a wee break. You need to. Whereas if you want to make something and for an audience to see it, make it on your phone, put it on TikTok, put it on Instagram, and you've access to millions of people. Now, whether it's good enough or you seem to hit the right thing at the right time where it goes viral, that's who knows. But the key to it is, just keep doing it, volume, put something out, make it, and then try and make it better next time. Just, that's all you have to keep doing. And the good thing with social media is you always hear it being vilified, but there is upsides to it. Yeah. One of the big pluses for me when I was making TaxiJo in the early days was you're constantly putting stuff out and you're constantly getting feedback about it.
True.
So you could, let's say hypothetically, in 1 year I put out, when we were going flat out at it, you could put out maybe 50 TaxiJo videos in a year or something. Of course. Okay, all them 50s, you're just getting feedback from the audience, seeing how it lands, seeing what works constantly. Whereas, years ago, if you make a TV series, the length of time it takes to write it, the length of the time for the production, and then you might test screen it or something. But you're into processes of years there. Whereas with social media, the immediacy of make something, put it out, see what people think of it,
Yeah.
And then a lot of people now are, that are writers or span writers or whatever, they're doing their story on TikTok as well. So they're talking about their process of writing. Here's how I'm starting. Here's how I want to learn. And they're, people that are very engaging can create a social media following there of talking about their process and how they write and all that. And that tends to be the way the world is going, like personal, they call it personal brand and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you develop that and build that online, then that becomes what you're known for. Instagram pages are now replacing CVs and, it just tends to be the way the world's going. So there is downsides to aspects of the film industry now, but I think if you're a creative, there's more upsides because of what you have available to you. Yeah. Now, when you're going into the TV world and the film world, it is harder now because the audiences aren't the same, and it's harder for film productions to get people into the cinemas because it's just so much competition for them. So getting a film financed now or getting a TV series financed now is harder than it was 25 years ago. Right. But, you can be your own production company. You can do your own thing on YouTube and all. And I think what people do too is when they creatively make stuff online and it doesn't get big numbers straight away, it can be a bit of a hit to your confidence, But that's where you just have to keep persisting at it. If that's where you want to go, you just keep persisting on it. And at the end of the day, if you enjoy the process and you're not too attached to the outcome, you're a winner anyway. Yeah. But the social media has this pressure on everybody where they want loads of likes, they want loads of views, and people now are afraid to display how many likes they have on a video in case people look at it and go, oh, they've only got 10 likes.
No, yes, the competition world, yeah.
So all that stuff can drive you up the walls, Yeah. I tend to keep social media off. But I have two phones. This phone here, I keep it off that one, and then I have a phone in the house just where I can check things.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'd be on it all day,
I like that. I like that setup, man. Well, I think you're spot on there. Like, young creatives, all creatives have the resources now to be able to be the best artists of themselves. Yeah. Whereas we were, making movies up there in the tunnels on High Street with our wee JVC camcorders, and thinking, this is what we want to do. But now I can go and take a phone, and as you talked about, that phone becomes the cinema camera almost. So that's the reality here. But the thing is, just going to what we're actually drinking today and everything.
Yeah.
You told me a wee anecdote there about, now guys, you won't, but I don't know if you believe it or not, but the Guinness diehards will know that we're not actually drinking a full pint here. But, Sláinte Cara. But we're drinking Guinness Zeros. But you did say earlier about one of the old men at the pub was saying about his Guinness Zero.
Yes. That's just a funny thing where, like, Guinness is a thing where if people start messing or tweaking with it, there's people who just say, nah, there's people, Guinness is Guinness, you don't mess with it, Yeah. But Guinness Zero's been brilliant because loads of people drink it now, and they can drive and all, it's fantastic. But yeah, the fella, he's drinking 3 or 4 Guinness Zeros, and it's just not the same. You don't get the same kick out of it. It's like, there's no alcohol in it. That's like,
there's no booze in it.
What do you expect?
Yeah, just like,
0-0 and then partying only.
Yeah.
No, but it's great. But Guinness, if I even remember when Guinness Extra Cold came out years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just rejected in Ireland, and it was rejected.
Just rejected, man.
But in England, it was in England all the time. The idea of it was you could just pour in one go. And it settles quicker, doesn't it? Well, not the idea.
So Gino, I mean, today we got to cover, your kind of early roots and development of becoming an artist and a writer. We got to kind of go in depth into the TaxiJo series and the production.
That's great.
Which, I'm sure, like, a lot of people love the entertainment, but there's a lot of people like to know how these productions are made and look into the art of it too. And also we got to, talk about that kind of the Newry kind of element and personalities and characters that drove this thing. And also you gave advice very kindly to, upcoming artists who want to pursue their dreams and who are listening in maybe from Newry, go to the tech or one of the media students, anywhere in this country. So I think that's great. It was absolutely great to have you on. Any just like last wee words you want to say, or do you like the setup of what we're doing here?
No, it's brilliant. And any time you want me on or whatever, this has been great. Loved it. Great wee setup here. This is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed talking to you. It was very enjoyable. Yeah, it's great.
Thanks a million, Gino. And I think what we're trying to do here is give people a platform to tell their stories.
Yeah.
It's Split the Gab. Well, maybe you gabbed a wee bit more than me, but but we split the gab here today, and I'm very happy with what we've done. So the guys, this will be uploaded on YouTube and Spotify.
Brilliant.
And guys can get involved in Nan Rice's Split the Gab podcast.
Brilliant.
So there we go. We'll go 1, 2, 3, split the gab, all right?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, split the gab. Class, bro.